Hello and welcome to the Juggling podcast. My name's Luke Burridge, as you know, because you're on the Luke Burridge Patreon account or YouTube channel or wherever you're listening to this. Joining me today is Juliane. Say hello, Juliane.
Hello, everyone.
And today we are going to be, officially this is the end of November podcast. Yes. Even though we're a week into December, but the end of the year, it's kind of like a busy time for us.
It really is.
And not just for work and gigs and concerts for Juliane, because as a singer, you do your Christmas. It's Christmas concert season now.
Yeah.
But yeah, just with our juggling projects as well, which are made possible by our Patreon supporters. So we'll talk through all of the stuff that your Patreon money has been going towards for the second half of this year. What did I say? Since August, I've been putting aside all our Patreon money, Patreon supporter money,
yes,
to be and then that's the budget for the Fight Night Combat end of year finals, the European Championships this year. So I just want to say a big thank you to Adolfo and Sid and Bethany. Thank you very much. Chris S, Flo, Hendrik and Joel. Thank you very much. Also at the $10 level, Marshall and Matt. And then thank you to all of those top level supporters. Some $5 a month people I want to thank as well. Jeremy, Juliana. Hey, you're a podcast supporter.
I still am.
Thank you so much. Kathy, Keith, Mark, Meryl, who just visited us here in Berlin, which is very nice. Good to see you, Meryl. Michael, Rafa, Statist. Oh, that's Killian. He was also here as well. The Mysterious Mark, and then lots of other people who are supporting us at the $1 or £1 or €1 or $1 Australian dollar or $1 Canadian dollar level. Or New Zealand dollar, I think we've even got there as well. So thank you very much to all of our Patreon supporters.
Thank you so much.
It is fantastic. And now there's even a way to give us a year's worth of support at a time.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't looked into it. I got an email the other day saying, hey, you can tell people to sign up for Patreon for an entire year. Haven't really looked at that. Anyway, let me go over to my podcast notes that I have here. Yes, thanks to all the Patreon supporters. That's what I wanted to say. So yes, we'll get you all caught up on our projects. I don't think we've got like a main topic of this podcast.
No, I kind of always assumed it would be like a 3-part podcast.
Oh yeah, what are the 3 parts?
Looking back at the European Championships, talking about that.
Yeah.
Then the what's immediately coming next, the top 40.
Top 40 jugglers,
and then generally, like, what's the outlook? What's
what we're doing at the end of the year.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, let's go through that then. So we, like I say, I've been putting aside budget for the end of year finals, the Fight Night finals. I think I mentioned this before. Someone actually commented on the previous episode saying, yes, this is actually, I can't remember who it was, but someone said, yeah, I'm a Patreon supporter, and yes, I'm happy for the money that I've been paying to go towards the Fight Night finals.
Awesome. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I mean, I'm sorry, Patreon supporters, you don't actually have much say in where the money goes, but it's like projects that Luke and Juliana were working on, that's kind of where the budget is going.
But that's what you sign up for. If you're a Patreon supporter, you're just supporting the person in their endeavors.
Yes, I mean, but sometimes I like say, okay, this is what it's for. Like we're going to do some vlogging, or I'm going to do some video essays, or I'm going to work on a show or whatever.
I think we're quite transparent with what's happening.
Yeah, so that's what we did, and the organisation, we picked a date which worked with us and also worked with other people who might be here last year. The Fight Night finals landed on the same day as a convention.
Yes.
A Leeds convention, and you think, that's not too important. It turns out the guy who organises Leeds Juggling Convention in the UK is John Pete, and he actually was like qualifying this year to come along. So.
Yeah. So this year, it didn't overlap.
No, I just made sure, I was just looked far enough in advance and talked to him and said, look, if this is what we're looking at here, so dates wise. Other people were like, we're going to have a convention in the Netherlands, the what is it, the HJW, what's that, the Herbs Jonglier Wochenende, or whatever it is in Dutch.
I think it's weekend.
Is it just weekend? I can't remember. But yes, the autumn juggling weekend, and also some others as well, like Nuremberg and other conventions. So you kind of because this is a place where it's people who go to lots of conventions, And so if this was an event where people who didn't go to lots of conventions were coming along, it could clash with more conventions. But of course, the reason why people come to this is because they've qualified,
because they go to lots of conventions.
Yes. So it's people.
So you have to kind of squeeze it into the convention calendar a bit.
But it isn't. I mean, it's kind of established. Like last weekend of November, first weekend of December. It's going to be around about there.
Yeah.
So last year I organised it at Catapult, which is a training space, and in the evening we could turn it into a show kind of event.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. I liked the experiment of it.
Yeah.
But it did mean that quite a lot of the considerations about it were putting on a good show for the audience. Which is fine, and that works really great at the European Juggling Convention, like some big conventions where it does become a live event.
Yes.
But that's because at the European Convention, say last year, when was it? Lublin, this year.
Lublin.
We've got like 2,500 people there.
Yeah.
And so if we say, hey, let's make this into a big show, 1,000 people come along and it's like a really fun event.
Exactly, especially if it's in a separate venue as it was in Lublin this year.
Yeah, we have a dedicated
great
venue.
Atmosphere.
A DJ doing it, sound system, lighting system. It's all set up really great for us there. And that's great because as the organizer, I didn't have to do any of that. Like the convention team can do that.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Or we just do it in the main gym. Like we have a sound system, but then you can still get 500, 1,000 people sitting around watching it. It can be a big event. But in just Berlin, we're relying on people to come along, and they're not there because they're at a convention. They're having to pay to come in and see a thing, and I did lots of promotion, and Declan and the guys at the Catapult were like, really impressed by how much stuff I'd done, messaging and lots of stuff on Instagram, and then just not that many people turned up, and it felt like I put in a lot of work for the people who weren't the participants.
Yes.
And I liked that we had a live show, and we did have, there was enough audience there to make it into a fun event. And of course, the people who aren't taking part in that match can sit around and watch and stuff. But it just did mean that it was difficult for people to warm up before the matches.
Yeah.
Like I qualified to get in and then just didn't take part in the end because I was like, it's too stressful for me to put all of this all of this together and take part and host it and work out what it is, and all that kind of thing. And while we were setting up the venue, we went out for dinner, so we kind of did the qualifications and then went out for dinner and back, and it was just like I wouldn't say messy organization, because it was a good event, a successful event. But this year I wanted to turn it back into what it was previously, which is like
focus on the thing itself.
It used to be like 10 jugglers, invite them to a sports hall and have a sporting event in a sports hall. And if people want to turn up and watch, they can. But then it's much more like, it's for the people who qualified to be here.
Yes.
It's not for the audience, even though I think it is a great show for the audience.
Yeah.
And lots of people do want to watch the live stream and all that kind of thing. But so that's what we did this year.
We did
turn it back away from that. And because of that, we just look for a sports hall in our local town, because that makes all of the logistics of having people staying in our apartment and going out for dinner and all that kind of stuff. Everyone could just do a walk away from our house.
Yeah, it's a difference if it's like 12 or 10 people having to go to a place like in total like 40 minutes away.
Well, last year it was like 15 people or something.
Or like here, it was like 15-minute walk, 10-minute walk.
It's like 12-minute walk up to there, 6-minute walk to the restaurant, and then like a 14-minute walk from the restaurant back home again after.
And also because it's in walking distance, it's not like half the people in the car, the other half are going via S-Bahn.
Yeah, and there's a supermarket right by there. Yeah. So that's what we did. So another change this year is that previously, like in 2020, I said, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to have two fields. We're going to have the open field that anyone can qualify for.
Okay.
And then
2020, nothing happened.
Yes. Let me finish my point. In 2020, this is what I said in January. Like, here we go. Okay. The race rankings. Right. We're going to pick the top 8 from the open race rankings. Then we're also going to have a women's race rankings, and we're going to pick the top 8 from there.
Yeah.
Which sounded like a good idea, because I wanted to reduce it down to always having 10 players. Because it's always a bit annoying that we get 10 people over, and then we have the group stages. And the first few years I did it, we had like 2 different groups, because I was like thinking of it too much like the tennis end of year finals, where you have the red group and the blue group, or the whatever it is group and the other group. And so that means some people come over, fly over from the UK, take part in 4 group stage matches, not be in the top 8 and don't get a chance to take part in the and I was like, oh, so you've flown all the way for like 4 matches. You know what I mean?
If that.
If that. So that's why over the years I've made it like, so there's more and more going on.
Yes.
So everybody, so now in the group stages, it's not you just play half of the people. No, you play everybody.
Yes.
You know, like, so everybody comes and everybody plays everyone. But then it still leads to the person of like, oh, but if you come 9th after, 9th out of 10, it means you don't get directly into the quarterfinals, and there's like these extra matches or a playoff. And last year I dropped out because I wanted to organize, and so that means there was 9 people. So I took like, oh, who was like 8th and 9th, and they did a playoff match to get, and all that kind of stuff. So the idea was that I wanted it to be top 8 only in 2020, but like I say, 2020, nothing happened. There was nothing at the end. And so I was like, all right, we'll still have 8 next year, but we'll have 1 extra for the top ranked player in 2020.
Yeah.
And then nothing happened the next year.
Yeah.
So then in 2022, which was last year's one, I was like, all right, we're going to have the top 8 from this year, plus the number 1 from the year before, and the number 1 from the year before. If you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
so because we didn't do it for 2 years, I still wanted to give it, like, to award that, like, to make sure that those people had an extra chance to get in. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if they didn't do well in 2022, if you'd done well in 2020 or 2021, you could get in.
Yeah.
So it was, even last year it was still 10, and we had the same thing. This year, 8, just 8 players is what I was aiming for.
Yeah.
Plus, I was going to have a wildcard tournament in case we needed an extra player on the
did.
day. And it turns out we did need an extra player on the day.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And I like that a lot better because we get through the matches pretty quick. Everybody plays 7 matches, and then and that's to determine where you go in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
And those matches count towards your head-to-heads. Each one has got like a high, rankings. And, and if you win all of your group stage matches and the knockout, you get 750 points for the rankings.
Yeah,
so
it's
really worth it.
Yeah.
For even if you're not going to like win the whole tournament, if you win 3 matches in the group stage, that's like really worth it for the rankings, and it can make a big difference. So that's what I want to do from now on, is only take 8 people.
Yeah.
And if someone drops out or can't make it, always have this like wildcard tournament to select.
Option of that,
or the option to do that if we need an extra. I think that's going to be really fun because I really enjoyed that this year.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do going forward. That's what we're going to. Last year we had 7 women take part in the Women's Open, just because like not so many women were taking part or really concentrating. It was the first time it happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we'll take the top 6, but then quite a lot of the women there hadn't taken part in enough tournaments.
Yeah.
Like you take part in one tournament and do pretty well, and you can like be in the top, well, not top 8, but in the top 20. And then a lot of them were Russians, and I was like, oh, it's a real pity that some of the top Russian combat players are women. But then they don't. I mean, it's just too difficult to sort out people, flying in from Russia to take part here.
Yeah.
I can't organize it. There's lots of political stuff that I just don't want to bother facing. So so that's it really. So, but this year there was definitely enough players that we could invite a full field.
And last year was kind of like a start to the idea.
Yeah.
And I think already this year, you could see a momentum going. Like,
it's so much better this year.
Yeah.
Even the 8th ranked woman taking part was like properly good, if you know what I mean, properly good at playing combat. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
So we had lots of people arrive. We did lots of driving around, picking people up from the S-Bahn station and from the airport. Juliane did airport runs. I did many runs down to the S-Bahn station. Lots of snow that day as well.
Yeah, it started like on the day that we picked up the first people, it suddenly started snowing. Yeah,
so we had 12 people staying over with us, and we went over to Juliane's parents, who live like 5 streets away, and we could stay there. So we didn't actually have to be here in a room. We were going to do that last year, but then your father got COVID on the day of the
very
of the
unfortunate.
Thing, so we had to
this year everything went as planned.
But also it was really fun just hanging out with people.
Yeah.
And we had a good discussion about sport and rules and where rules come from.
Yes.
And where sports come from.
Yeah.
Which
and also people could like some of the people who do who were here, who were invited, organize fight nights themselves. And so what happens is that they are kind of becoming ambassadors for it. And then if they come here and then they sit in groups together and there's a bit of a discussion going on, it's also then becoming, they have concrete questions. It's not like just general like blah, but it's like, okay, what about this? How do we do this?
Yeah.
Who decides that? What is the clarification? What is the rule? What can you juggle? And like very specific questions. Very good.
And I find it very, very interesting because these are people who have, like I say, real world examples of like what happens if someone's club snaps in half halfway through the point.
Yes.
And I talked about through the history of that, like the first time it happened or the first time I remember it happening and all that kind of stuff. So now we have to actually think about that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Because if it happens once, you're like, we'll just, whatever.
Yeah.
For me, I always think the most important thing is whoever is determining who gets the point, like whoever is refereeing it.
Yeah.
Should be very clear, make a decision and explain the decision and then carry on.
Yeah.
Even if the decision is, it's too difficult to make a decision, replay the point.
Yeah.
That is, I think, a completely
valid decision.
valid point. So Meryl has sent me her questions and some examples and stuff, and I am going to update the official rules.
Nice.
And I think because I haven't updated the rules for like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
It's good to actually have a proper discussion and go, right, what actually needs to be done here?
Yeah.
Based on not just Luke organising tournaments, like you say, lots of other people organising lots of other tournaments where Luke isn't and hasn't seen these points.
Yeah, so it's coming, the request for more guidelines is coming from the community and not just from one person deciding randomly or seemingly random.
Yeah, and like if we have a look at it here, we can look at these open race rankings and we can see Meryl took part in 11 tournaments this year.
That's a lot.
Paula, 11 tournaments. There's quite a few people who've taken part in Killian, 11 tournaments. These people are now taking part in and organising more fight nights than I do.
Oh yeah.
Same with Callie in the UK. Not quite so many, but plenty. What's that? 7 tournaments Callie took part in, although 2 of them were here at the end of year finals.
No, it's really good.
Excuse me. So we had lots of people here, rules discussions, I'll get them done, and then we went over to the sports hall which we hired. I was a bit nervous that there wouldn't be enough room because it is like a sports hall at a primary school. So the ceiling isn't quite as high as you'd want, like not all like the beams in the ceiling aren't like, hey, this is a good enough to play badminton or basketball
or volleyball things that go up.
There's like minimum ceiling heights for these kind of places, like for an official basketball court has to have so much height above it. And of course it's a primary school hall. It was, I think, perfectly big enough, pretty cozy. We could get in there. We weren't quite sure if the lights would be bright enough, but of course once it wasn't there wasn't so much lights coming in through the windows, the lights looked a lot brighter, in comparison to 1 o'clock 1 o'clock with snow outside.
And so your eyes get kind of used to it, and it was totally fine.
It was totally fine. The only thing that we messed up was with the videos is that we didn't check the settings for the video, and everything was filmed in 30 frames a second rather than 60 frames a second. And in that low light, it means that everything's just a bit blurry. Which is a pity, but nobody notices except me.
Exactly.
Like we noticed looking back at the footage that we're like, it could have been better quality then, that it could have been crisper, but we just messed up. But otherwise it was fine.
I will learn from that. But otherwise it was really, really easy. We did the contract with the town. I got the key from...
They haven't sent the invoice for it yet, so I haven't actually paid that bill. But again, thank you very much to all our Patreon supporters, because it was like €200 or something like that for the hall for the afternoon, and totally worth it. Like, again, I paid about that much last year for Catapult, for the Catapult stuff. Although that wasn't like an official contract. That was like, hey, like how many people come along, how many tickets we sold, and I was like, I could, I have got the budget to make up anything that, like if Catapult wasn't going to make as much money as they would normally do from a live show or something, which they didn't because not as many people came. As comes along for their cabarets and open stages and other things that they do there.
But this was good. Like also the time frame worked out. Like I thought like the amount of things that happened in this time frame was plenty.
Well, that's the thing. I had instead of it, and this is one of the things that I wanted to make it fun for people coming along.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it more of more of an event for people. So it's not just come along one tournament. I wanted to have various different things. So
Yes.
we're okay, we'll start off, we'll have the wildcard tournament, then we'll have the group stages, then we can have a bit of a break, then we'll have the finals, and then after that we've still got we'll still have 2 hours to go. So we'll do some zombie combat, maybe a team combat tournament.
Yeah.
But by the time we got there, no, and what I'm saying is that that worked out well. Lots of people came along. So, unfortunately, though, after we'd done the finals, I was like, right, who wants to do another tournament? And it was suddenly people were like, oh no, we've just done back-to-back tournaments. We've had the fight night.
Yeah.
Now a team combat tournament. Now it's suddenly, this is now.
It became too many.
It was a lot more.
Yes.
So there was a good zombie combat session, and some people did play team combat, but it was a bit of a pity because a few people did come over from Berlin
for that.
Yeah, I didn't qualify, but I want to take part in the team combat after the main event.
Yeah.
And then it didn't really happen. I mean, people still hung out and juggled. There was still plenty of people. But it did, at the end there, it did feel much more okay, we've just got 2 hours of a convention now.
Yes.
Of people hanging out, chatting.
And I think for future planning, I think we should be a bit more flexible and open with that, in the sense of 3 full tournaments.
Yeah, back to back.
It's just a bit much.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it could work.
It could work, but then it can't be a scheduled thing.
Yeah.
It can be okay, if it works out, it happens.
Well, I would do it the other way around. I would say, okay, we start off, and instead of having that wildcard tournament, we'll have a team combat tournament to begin. So let's say we did that in the morning, or we get hall hire instead of from 1 o'clock through to 8 o'clock. We do say 11 o'clock to 7 or 11 o'clock. So we get there at 11 o'clock and we do, a team combat tournament. So if anyone who wants to take part in that can just arrive at that time, break for some lunch, have some snacks, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we could still then at 2 o'clock or something start with the group stage. Then the finals, the knockout rounds at 4 o'clock, or 4:30 or whatever we got to this time, and then still have an hour for hanging out, zombie combat. I'm just spitballing, I'm just talking off the top of my head, but I'm saying we're always experimenting with this to make things better.
Yes.
Which I think is good fun.
Yes, I still think an extra, if then the wild card doesn't happen, that could be a substitute.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think we'll need the wild card tournament each year.
Yes.
This time it was it was an experiment.
Yeah.
I think it worked. I think it was fun. Mm-hmm. If all of the people come along, I don't think it's needed, and we can do team combat instead. If you know what I mean, we can get, because that means everyone's involved. Because rather than just because 7 people who'd already qualified, they couldn't even take part in that. They were just warming up and training together.
Yeah.
So yeah. As the wild card, in case you don't know what that is, a wild card is an entry to a tournament that you give someone so they don't have to qualify directly. Mm-hmm. And so
they qualify on the spot on the day.
Yeah. No. Normally, they would still know in advance that they get a wild card.
Okay.
I've done that before, where we'll have the top 10 plus the person someone who's done well, someone.
Oh, okay. A direct wild card entry.
Yeah,
direct entry.
Yeah, or for example, this happened with Yaron last year, that he isn't based in Europe, and generally this is the European Championships, and I want people. So I'm not going to invite people who've only taken part in North American tournaments, because there's going to be weird paying $1,000 for someone to come over.
Yes.
But in this case, Yaron had come second at the EJC. He'd done well in others, and I thought it would be fun to invite him over.
Yeah.
And it can, even by the rules of the qualifications, he wouldn't have qualified. He gets the wild card.
Yeah.
And I've done that a few times, different people.
Yeah.
Also, there was one rule that you have to have taken part in at least 3 tournaments. I've now dropped that down to 2 tournaments, just, over the last few years.
Yeah.
Because it's people have taken part in fewer, not everybody, but there's been a few. And so Wes Peden took part in 1 tournament, which is the EJC. He won it, and that would have got him direct entry in with just the major win, but that also requires you take part in another 2 tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I was like, no, of course he gets the wild card, of course he gets the extra, the obvious invite.
Yeah. And that's being done by lots of
Yeah, so Jochen
places.
got a bit ill, Jochen Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
He qualified in 8th place. And so the wildcard tournament actually worked out pretty well. I was like, right, let's get at least 8 people, and some people were there to take part. Owen Allen turned up. He had won Hamburg, but hadn't beat Jochen in a final.
Yeah.
Only the second person to ever beat Jochen in a
Pretty
final of a fight
impressive.
night. And but he wasn't quite at that level. He didn't quite make the top 8.
Yeah.
So the people who were there, who were taking part in the fight night in the wildcard tournament to decide who's going to replace Jochen, was Owen, who at the time would have been ranked 9th, I think.
Right.
Callie, who would have been ranked 10th. Paula, who would have been ranked 11th or 12th or something, because there's like a Russian player there who didn't get invited.
Yeah.
And then me, who would have been in 12th or something like that. So we had 8th, 9th, 11th and 12th in the rankings, in the year-long rankings, at the event.
Deciding who...
And whoever won that. And because there was like, I want at least 8 people to come and take part and to encourage some other people, I was like just on the spot. Because I wasn't sure if this wildcard tournament was going to have ranking points. Because I was like, maybe that's not fair because it's like, it's not open to everyone. But then I just sort of like made the call. I was like, all right, 125 points. We're going to make this a minor tournament. Take part. There'll be real matches. The results will be tracked in the thing, and it'll go towards your 2023 thing. And that actually worked out perfectly because it worked out it doesn't matter what had happened, whoever would have won, the 125 points would have given them enough points to bump them up into that 8th spot anyway.
That's great. Yeah.
Although maybe not exactly. Maybe like if Paola, because she'd taken part in more tournaments, but like if you'd have just taken her ranking, added 125 points in it, she would have been in 8th place.
Yeah.
So we did that. I wasn't sure if I was going to take part or not, but then for the people there, I was like, if I don't take part in this, I reckon Owen is going to get through not pretty easily because Paola is really good.
Yeah.
And Callie could take some points off of him, but really I wanted to make it like properly difficult for Owen to qualify, and I thought that's my job now.
Okay.
And then it was us two in the final.
Yeah.
Although again, beating Paola is actually really difficult now.
It becomes harder.
It's getting harder and harder because I was like, oh no, because again, it's nothing personal against her. It's just that like this happens to everyone who starts getting good over time. It used to be like Bass, who was like small, and I would beat him, and then I beat him at the final of the NJF 2018, and at that time I was like, oh man, he's gonna put on 10 more kilograms and grow 10 more centimeters, and this is going to be really, because I already knew, like I could already see he was really good, but I just had the experience and the skill and maybe the height, and then just a skill and anything comes along a bit more and you're like, oh right, that's it. So you see these people on these upward trends. Even Owen was like that at one point, like when I first played him. So anyway, it was the wild card, me and Owen in the final. Got to 4-all, or I came back from behind and won that last point.
Yes.
Very satisfying. Owen was all like, I didn't play very well. But, it doesn't matter if you didn't play very well, if there's something on the line, if there's a match on the line. But this wasn't just to win the tournament. This was to get into the main group stage of the finals. So I did it and then took part in the finals and then so in other words, so what happened in the end was me and Callie and Paola and the other people who were taking part in that, who then also they went on into the women's tournament. So we all played two fight nights in a row, and those group stage matches in the main thing, they're not just qualification matches to 3 points. They're like proper matches that mean a lot, with like proper rankings, weight behind them, and head-to-head stuff as well. So and John Pete beat me for the first time ever. I reckon if that had been a match in a knockout tournament, he wouldn't have beaten me, because again, matches in a knockout, you're focused in a lot more. It's like Jochen in a final. Like it's much more difficult to beat him there than it is in a group stage or in qualifying or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
but still, like this kind of stuff just shows how difficult this day is. Like I know these are like the top players and stuff, but it takes them to their limits. Because it's so many matches back to back, and they mean so much. Because you're not just playing against, like, let's say at a normal convention, if you're part of this group that was invited, you're probably at the top. And so many more people are in skill and experience level underneath you. So
this level of players normally have to get to like either like say at the EJC, you've got to get to like the quarterfinals before you're like really like properly being tested. Or other conventions, like smaller conventions, when there's maybe 12, 15 people taking part. Semi-finals and finals is where you're like properly meeting good players for the first time. And at this tournament,
straight away from the
group
beginning.
stage, match one, because I just used the printyourbrackets.com or something like some sports organizing help website.
Yeah.
And so everybody follows the list of matches that they're going to play. And the way that it sets up in these group stages is that the first match is, okay, seed number 1 versus seed number 2.
Yeah.
So the first match that these guys played, Jasper and Baz, who were the finalists of the EJC, their first match was against each other, and they both did well enough to get to the final. So then their last match was against each other.
Yeah.
So at 2:00 or whatever it was, like 2:30, they played their first match against each other.
Yeah.
And then at like 6:30, they played their second match against each other, with 8 other matches in between against, 7 of or whatever the six are the best players of the year. So
so the level is really high,
so much more difficult.
Yes.
So and it worked really well. Again, the final was, I think, a very fitting final of the Open tournament, which was the number 1 ranked player against the number 2 ranked player, a replay of the EJC final. It's really clear that Jasper and Baz are just at that next level above anybody else at the moment.
Absolutely. And it's always quite interesting to me if these kind of scores and rankings are literally being confirmed over and over again. Like it's not a fluke. It's not like it's random and some people can win or lose or whatever. No, it is. It's like proving itself. This is what's going to happen,
but
and then
good.
It happens.
It's good that it doesn't just happen with Jochen and Luke and other Berlin. Like it used to be that like, okay, Jochen's gonna win, but if Jochen's not there, Luke's probably gonna win, or like Luke is gonna do well enough, if you know what I mean. Like Jochen was winning EJC after EJC after EJC, until he wasn't at, no, actually I guess that one that Owen won, but I was in the final still. You know what I mean? So but it's got to the point where Luke is not in the top 2 anymore, and Jochen isn't taking part in enough, so he's not at the top. So when he's not there, yes, the other people rise, the other players rise to the top, and at the moment that is clearly Baz and Jasper, or Jasper and Baz, depending on which European level tournament, the EJC or the European Championships, which one came out ahead in this case. Jasper was like, winning the EJC felt better than this. But again, he'd already won the EJC. He hasn't won this. You know what I mean?
No.
It is a tricky thing.
Yeah.
So that was a really good thing. I managed to get 4th place, losing to Christoph in the 3rd place match. Yeah. Christoph did very well. Yeah. Neither of us were in the top 4 after the group stage. We were, what does it say here? We were seeded 5th and 6th. Yeah. But we just did better than Killian and Eva in our, we beat Killian and Eva
in the knockout.
In our first round of the knockout.
Yeah.
I'd beaten those guys. Oh, sorry, I'd beaten Christoph and Killian in the group stage.
Right.
And I had quite a few. Look at this. So Luke here. So I had a 5-4 match, another 5-4 match, another 5-4 match, and then again other 5-3 matches. Some of those 5-4 matches I was winning, some of them I was losing. Like I beat Christoph and Fabian and Killian, but I only got 3 wins in the group stage. Yeah. And Christoph did. Christoph we both only got 3 wins, because again it's just so difficult. But then when you get into that knockout, then it's winner takes all, or like winner advances, single elimination at that point. And that's why I love single elimination. It's like, no, it comes down to this. It doesn't matter what you've done so far. Yeah.
I also really like this, that it doesn't keep going with like tie breaks or any sort of like. It comes to 4-4, and in this tournament, quite a lot of times. Yeah. And then it's the deciding point, and this is so exciting because it gives it like the meaningfulness. It doesn't need to be 2 points apart or anything, and that can go on for ages. I mean, it can go on for ages if it's 4-4, if people both just drop.
Well, that's actually what happened in the final. It took, and in the video that I made, I kind of made it clear that there was lots of, we both dropped, or one of them dropped, or attack was good, but then didn't carry on juggling. Yeah, no, actually, when we got to the quarterfinals, like in that, like when we started the live stream, and we're like, all right, here we go. Women's tournament, quarterfinal 1, it went to 5-4. Yeah. And then in the open tournament, quarterfinal 1, 5-4
Yeah.
again. Like it went to that deciding point. So
Yeah.
the seeding system, and that's why I organize the tournament this way, is that the first match is always seed number 4 versus seed number 5, because
Yeah.
they're the two numbers closest together,
Yes.
which can play each other in the first round. So it theoretically makes it the closest match or the most interesting match to play at that
Yeah.
point.
And as it shows, it does.
And it does work, and it did. And then, of course, straight away afterwards, you got seed number 1 versus seed number 8, and they were 5-0 and 5-0 straight
As
away. So
expected.
you're like, okay, as expected,
Yes.
the top player is going to be it. So moving over to the Women's Championship, we had in the final, Paula in the final.
Yeah.
But this time, Callie in the final with her. Last year, Callie qualified for the main tournament. I say the main tournament, the open tournament.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was like, okay, taking part in both tournaments, like I just illustrated, that's a lot of matches.
It's hard.
And if you're going to concentrate on just one of them, I'd say you qualified for the open tournament. I'd say go for the open tournament.
Yeah.
And she did, and she got like 8th. So again, not great, but you want to be testing yourself against the best there.
Yeah.
In this case, she didn't make the top 8 and didn't win the wild card.
Yeah.
She took part in the women's tournament. Still lost to Paula in the final though, because Paula is just really, really good.
Look, she didn't lose a match.
No, 10 in a row. Yeah,
That's-
nobody else did that except Paula. She
amazing. Yeah.
won 10 matches in a row
Yeah.
in the women's tournament.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think if she'd have taken part in the open tournament, again, she didn't quite get there with her rankings and didn't get there with the wildcard tournament. I reckon if she was the 9th there, I reckon she would have come 8th, if you know what I mean. I think she would have done better than Fabian in there. Fabian, I think, did well. I wouldn't say he got lucky. He just won a few, like 2 more or one more tournament than Paula did, because Paula only goes to conventions where Killian is there, and Killian is like the 4th best in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
And Paula is probably the 8th best player in the world at the
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
Or like I say best, but like how they could be rewarded for the results.
Yeah.
But Paula just keeps coming up against Killian in semi-finals and finals at
course.
the smaller conventions that she
Yeah.
goes to.
Yeah.
And Fabian doesn't come up against Killian in the smaller tournaments.
Yeah.
Because it's just different small tournaments
Yeah,
in Germany.
different places you go to, of course.
But no, did really great. Frederica did really well. Again, I think that's twice in a row she's got 3rd place, I think.
Really good.
Oh, was it? No, I can't remember. And then Wiebke, Izzy, Meryl, Maud, and Tamara rounded out the top field.
Yeah.
And
And
I think
nobody-
all did really well.
Yeah, and everybody won at least one match.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. So nobody came and lost all their matches except Fabian. He didn't win any matches in the open tournament.
Right.
Which is a bit of a pity. But no, again, I think a really good result. The level is going up all the time.
Yeah.
And so here's a question that, again, it's like a discussion coming down, not to rules, but like sports administration stuff. Somebody messaged me afterwards. I'm not going to say who it was. I mean, it doesn't matter, but it was some, I'll just say Ivan messaged me afterwards because he's also organizing some sports kinds of stuff.
Ivan. Okay.
He organizes the numbers juggling league and this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's no women's category for that.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not giving any judgment one way or the other. A lot of sports, they start up and you don't know who's going to be best. You don't know what's going to be the level. Should there be a women's category? Like in top 40 jugglers, is it going to be open? A quota for like in women's votes and all this different kind of stuff. It's a lot of considerations. And he was just asking, like, if you had a men's tournament and a women's tournament, like in tennis, they're both considered equal. Like equal prize money or whatever. And he says, like, again, he says, not criticism, just asking like what the thought process is there. And I said, well, we've done an open tournament, and this is the idea that the winner of the open tournament is the proper winner. They're the overall winner. And then the women's tournament is like it's like a secondary tournament. And that's true. Whereas like in tennis, there's 2 tournaments going on, one for men and one for women, but both people are Wimbledon champion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like both people win the US Open. There isn't sort of like the real winner, and this side competition going on, which not everybody can enter.
Yeah.
So that's the consideration of this. But from talking to like everybody involved, I haven't found a single top woman combat player who doesn't want to go up against the best.
Yeah.
And the best at the moment are the men.
Yeah.
And so that's it. I would never want to exclude anyone from being able to take part in a tournament that they want to. You know, that for me is the more important consideration.
Yeah.
You can do inclusivity, you can do equality, you can do all of these different words that people come up with, but I want inclusivity and accessibility to be playing the biggest matches, to be the defining feature of the main tournament winner.
Yeah.
The women's tournament is like at the moment and a chance to give the women more exposure, to encourage them to take part, to give them other people of around about their skill level and, to put it bluntly, body size and shape to be able to go up against without just being, you know, tripped over by, you know, Andreas Braun or some other tall, you know, men. Or, you know, someone like Jasper who, like, these guys obviously work out, or not work out, but like they're like it's getting to the point where they're like, oh, proper athletic, like male athletic builds.
Yeah.
Which is, again, just from a purely physical point of view, difficult to go up against.
Yeah.
But then there's plenty of combat players who get to that high level without that body, you know, without having, you know, the same height or weight or something. And I think that's what we're getting to now. So I think again, no final decisions, but I think a women's tournament, I think, is still appropriate now.
Yeah.
I think if it gets to the point where each year we're getting 3 of the top 8 players as women participants, and I think it could happen, I would be totally fine with, okay, we don't need a women's only tournament now. Maybe still have it, but I don't think it would be needed so much, if you know what I mean.
Well, what I think is definitely noticeable, though, is that as soon as the women have their own space to progress each other and to just do more. Just it's always about doing it, doing the thing. And as soon as, like what you just said about the if you're ranked 8th and then you come up against the first player, that's it. That's all you're gonna.
And your tournament's over, and you don't get a chance to test yourself against the best.
And here, what we can have is just practice. That's basically.
Well, that's what I say. It's like what I want it to be is like, you know, the development league. You know, like the minor leagues. Okay, you're doing good, or once you're doing good here, it's possible to get out of that. And I think because I want that to be more exclusive in a way, if you know what I mean. Like I want it to be like, no, this is now, you know, again, a safe space, whatever it is, but like just a place where people can play, without having to worry about like being dunked on by sweaty armpit guys. I don't know what to say about that, but like there is a consideration there.
Absolutely.
So one place is like exclusive but welcoming, and the other place is inclusive and welcoming.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. Like there's two different things. Anyway, not a big issue at the moment because I like it that I can invite 16 people along.
Yeah. And it's been a process. It's a consideration process, and it's a process that has been the decision has been made after lots of talks with all the different parties and different people and different opinions, and so it's not something that you just decided randomly or anything.
No.
So I would always say include the community, include the affected people.
But also, even if I did just decide it randomly or like just decide it arbitrarily, I think that would be okay as long as I learned from what I've done. Yeah. And I think at the moment, the people who are coming along to it are the people who care most about it. Yeah. And those are the people who I'm doing it for. Like I say, at the moment, it's the participants. Yeah. Like I want to reward the people who are taking part in more tournaments. Yeah. To, you know, come along and have a fun day out. Yeah. So anyway, after the tournament, we I gave some medals. I'd bought some medals online. So people actually got real They didn't just get emoji medals on Instagram posts after they actually got some real medals. You had something around your necks. And that's good. Oh, the other thing that someone asked about was prize money also. Oh, no, that's actually was Ivan, that same conversation that we had. He was saying, oh yeah, like in disc golf, there's an open category and a women's category, and the best woman can easily win the women's category there's also this equal prize money, so she's incentivized to take part in the women's tournament and then also take part in the open tournament and things. And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that there's not prize money to mess up anybody's incentives. I might do a podcast about that next year, talking about, again, I don't want this podcast just to become a game design or sports management podcast, but this is kind of what I'm talking about. We did that whole podcast about what it would take for juggling to become an Olympic sport.
Yes.
And I don't want to cover that same ground again, but I'm just so glad that I don't have to put considerations into, but this person wants to enter that tournament and they should be allowed to, because if they're not, they're denied prize money, which leads to they want to be a professional, not interested in supporting combat juggling as a professional endeavor.
Yes.
So I can just sidestep all of those considerations.
Yes.
Afterwards, we locked up the hall, packed up, got out, went out for dinner.
That went really smooth.
Had the budget. Thank you to all the Patreon people, for our Patreon supporters, because going out for dinner is like one of the defining features, or like doing that of the Fight Night finals. I've always been able to swing the budget to be able to cover like going out for pizza or going out for Indian food or wherever the different places that we've been to over the years.
And it was so visible, just like when did we had the food place at 7:30 or something, and
we got there at 8:30. We booked it for 8:30.
8:30.
Because we had the hall until 8 and then there.
Yeah, and people were properly tired.
Yeah.
like you could totally tell that it was an exhausting day.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder, like, when there's these one-day conventions, they always have the show, like, at the last event. And I'm like, what we should do is just have, like, this is what I was thinking afterwards, because everyone's there really tired. I was like, just do a convention, juggling in the morning, juggling in the afternoon, have the show at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, finish the show by 7:30, and then everyone's free to either go out for food or to hang out in the, like, still have the hall open, like in that. But often, like, you've got to get all the juggling in early, and then the show is when you're most tired and most hungry if you haven't eaten properly or you've just eaten and you're warm and you're tired and now you're having a drink and now you're seeing the show. I was just like, we can get like we did here. We got the main event was like 4:30.
Yeah.
Was I scheduled it for 4 o'clock, knowing that it would probably start at 4:30, and we pretty much did. Well, I was thinking about 4:20 as well, but 4:30 is fine. Just do that. And then I remembered, the one juggling convention I ever organized was the first, I think it was called the first World National Sports, the first annual Barnard Castle's World Sports Juggling Convention. I can't remember what it's called. It's like some dumb name.
Some silly name,
So really what it was is like Luke's organising a birthday party for himself.
Right.
Had it in Barnard Castle, invited lots of people, made it into a convention. No show. So what we did, we juggled all day, had some games, and then we literally did the same thing. We packed up, and the evening entertainment was, we're going to go over to Spice Island Indian restaurant, get some food. Then go across the road to the pub, drink. And then if people want to stay back at my place, they can. Otherwise, in the north of England, there's enough people who live within 2-hour drive that you can finish up at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then they can head off. And loads of people were like, hey, this is really nice. We have the thing, but we don't have to worry about going to the show. And we had loads of time to go out for dinner. We didn't have to finish up dinner early and try and get back and stuff like that. So
it's always interesting because this happens over and over. Always with organized events, whatever the events are, the organizers underestimate the urge of people to be social with each other. That means just hanging out, doing little bits of interaction of sportive activity, but mostly just hanging out, catching up. Because anytime these conventions happen, you have people you haven't seen for a year or even longer. So you need to schedule.
That's slightly different here with the Fight Night people because it's the same scene and they've all been this is like the third time they've played each other this year and they've been to the same conventions.
Yeah, but also it's people who play in different circles and then they come together.
And that's what's bringing together.
Yes,
so we had So we had 2 people over from the UK.
Yeah.
We had, what is it? I can just look here as well. Germany, UK. Oh, the women's field was quite German and Dutch heavy, but we had Germany, UK, Germany, Netherlands, Germany. So and then in the open was Netherlands, Belgium, Poland, UK, Norway, Germany, UK, Germany. Yeah, so 2 Germans, 2 Brits, and then like 4 other nationalities. So it is very international, and it is really interesting to see. Well, John Pete wins the tournaments he enters in the UK, except for the BJC where Bas won. But then Killian wins the tournaments in Germany. Baz wins the tournaments in the Netherlands. Christoph wins the tournament in Poland, and it's like, right, let's bring them. Oh, and he also won the Norwegian juggling convention.
Yes, and Japan randomly.
Yeah, Japan. But he had played and I think beaten Baz, but then lost to Jasper or whatever it was.
Right.
Or so there was some other tournament that he was at where he. Actually, I can just click on his name here. Where did he come second? I think, at the NJF. So he beat Jasper, then lost to Baz at the NJF. So again, those are the top two players of the year as Baz and Jasper. But Eva beat one of them at the NJF. You know what I mean? So
it's good.
So
it's proper European representation.
And that's what I actually really like about it. It used to be really easy to organize here in Berlin because I was like, yeah, of course Berlin, because like
half the people are from here.
Like we're inviting 10 people and 6 of them already live in Berlin. Easy. That's what it was literally like on that first time out.
That is true.
Or first and second time out. Was now it really is like, okay, number 1 Netherlands, number 2 Belgium, number 3 Germany, number 4 Poland, number 5 Norway, number 6 UK, or whatever it is,
Yeah. No, it's really good.
So right then, I think that's and then the next day, like people stayed over, lots of people left the next day. We had a few people stay over from Sunday to Monday, but most people left on Sunday. And it was just a really nice event, a really good success. And again, I want to thank all our Patreon supporters for making it possible, because like again, I have funded this out of pocket in the past, but not really, because I've used video licensing money for viral combat juggling clips of mine or other juggling clips. So something will go viral, and then people will ask, hey, can we give you money to feature this on a TV show or on our
social
channel
media or whatever.
Something like that. And so over the years, on average, I've made between €600 and 800, like around about that each year from video licensing, not just combat clips, but others as well. Sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less. And this year I thought, well, I haven't really had that this year. There was, 1 or 2 bits and pieces that I did, but they had nothing to do with combat or anything like that. There were some, not so much viral stuff. One was the United States Tennis Coaching or Tennis Association wanted to use a clip of me doing the pancake juggling. Like, you remember there's that vlog that we did where I did a trick with a pancake, and I told a story of winning a pancake tossing competition when I was a kid, and I did it by demonstrating with a pancake and stuff like that. They looked at that and they were like, we want to use this in some, like encouraging people to become tennis coaches, video or something. So they just gave me money for a clip, and I just sent them the original footage. It was something we just filmed like in 5 minutes. Like I didn't even edit it for it. It was like, I'm just going to tell the story of me winning a pancake tossing competition when I was, and that was like the birth of, that was like one of the first things I did where I was like, I thought through my performance. Like I'd never done this before. People can go back and watch the video, but the idea was that I saw somebody do something and people were like, whoa, but they dropped it, and I was like, I need to recreate that whoa moment, but actually do it. So everyone else was just flipping the pancake and catching it again. I'm like, I'm going to intentionally throw this really shit. Like I'm going to throw it high, off to the side and forward. And if I like, it's like an all or nothing bet. If I manage to like do a crazy dive thing where I've got to jump really far forward and I catch the pancake, I'm winning this pancake tossing competition. But if I drop it, fine, doesn't matter. But just doing what other people were doing, which is just flipping it and catching, again, wouldn't have been enough.
Do it.
And so that's what I did. I chucked the pancake really far forward and then had to do this diving, lunging catch, which I totally hammed up. And I won the pancake tossing competition. I'm like, I'm the best. Like 10-year-old Luke brain was like, I've cracked the code. I've seen through the matrix. Like I have the gnosis. I know what to do. I know how to get a reaction out of people. And it was that kind of like, I wouldn't say that's the basis of my entire career as a juggler.
But being conscious about
kind of
performance. Absolutely.
No, but like that, like you're talking about like, oh, what kind of brain do you have? And I was like, oh yeah, I've got a kind of brain who can engineer emotions in other people, and that's kind of like dangerous in a way. But to be able to approach my performing life as a like, I'm going to think this through and plan it, and I'm like, a lot of it's about just stage presence and personality and charisma and spontaneity, but there's so much of me sort of like, okay, but then which beat of the music do I throw this thing that's going to do it, and then testing it, so it comes from that.
It's really good. I have to one thing to say. and I don't want to bring it down and stuff, but I think next year we should definitely have a few people helping you with the organization on the day.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't know I was going to win the wildcard tournament. I assumed I wasn't even going to take part in the wildcard tournament.
But you did.
I assumed it would be fine because we probably wouldn't even need the 9th player, so we'd do it, anyway. And then we'd be like, right, let's stick the 9th player in,
and it'll
be fine.
You can never just think ahead and have all the negative outcomes. You have to think ahead.
But I'm really pleased I did this, even though I hurt my thumb so badly, and I've had to take, and that's pretty much why this podcast is so delayed, because it took me a week to recover enough to be able to start working on like the videos that I put out and things like that. I thought I was going to be a 1 week. I thought we'd be doing this like last weekend, like on December 2nd, once I'd got everything sorted out. But all of my social media posting and video editing and all that kind of stuff has been delayed by a week because I hurt my thumb so badly. And it wasn't even a bad attack. It was just sort of like my hand went up, Killian's arm went down, my thumb got squished in a way which I still, looking back on the video, can't quite see what happened. But oh my goodness, what a bruise. I'll post that as an exclusive Patreon video to show how bad
that's good.
Bad my thumb was messed up.
But we had like few live streams, and people always ask for the live streams, and we always think, no, we don't do live streams. I know, but people really want that. And next time we should just in advance schedule enough phones or things that can broadcast to
I hadn't
YouTube.
really thought it through, but then but we were trying to do it by like tethering, and you just can't do it by tethering.
No.
What I should have done is like, I don't know, I was going to say swap the SIM card over, or whatever we need to do to make it work a bit better.
We just need to think of it ahead instead of at the moment, which makes
maybe there was Wi-Fi then. We could have used the Wi-Fi and we could have just made it work. I don't know. We've done this before.
This is what I'm saying. This needs to be going on the list to be considered
Put
beforehand.
It on the list for next year.
And then also, because you did take a part in the wild card and you did win it, you then you did
I was so
scorekeeping, putting up the scorecards. You did the hosting.
I enjoy that. Like I did well.
And the DJing. So you did 4 jobs in one.
Yeah, but then we got who came over? Maud came over and Vibke,
I know.
And we had other. But again, next time I'll do that a bit more. But at the time, I know it's weird to say this, it's just easier for me to get all of that started rather than relying on other people to do it. And that's why at the EJC I took part in qualifications and then dropped out to organize. At the European Championships last year, I took part and then dropped out to do the organizing. And this year I was like, look, this is, I have to, why can't, I'm going to do this, if you know what I mean. I just made the decision. I'm going to have a lot of fun. I did have a lot of fun. I don't think it detracted from the tournament in any meaningful way. I think, again, could have run smoother, could have done all that kind of stuff. But again, this is a project, and sometimes it's just easier for me to just do a bit more.
I know.
Than otherwise.
I understand. I just want to...
I know. I totally understand what you're saying, but it's always a balance. There's always upsides and downsides to all this kind of stuff.
And there are things that you can delegate.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I should have just... but the thing is, a lot of people who were there were taking part. That was the thing. Everyone who was there was already taking part.
Yeah.
And the people who were best equipped at doing the organising, of course, they're the ones who organise a lot of tournaments and take part in them, and then they're there to take part. So, I guess I could have got some other people. But then other people specifically said they didn't want to help organising, which it's totally fine with.
Yeah.
Like Owen and Melissa were there, no, we're just here to watch. Because Melissa gets dragged into organising so much stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And she didn't want to do it. All right, then. I think we're done with that. Close the lid on that project.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone, for allowing us to talk for 50 minutes about the Fight Night Finals. But again, this is a big part of our life.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big way I give back to the community. And also, to be selfish, I really enjoy doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if it makes the juggling scene better, and even if it's just for the 16 people who come along, it really makes that they have a venue, that we have an event just for combat, I think makes the combat scene and the juggling scene better, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It means that more people care about doing more stuff for other jugglers and organize other stuff throughout the year.
Yeah.
And the EJC itself has a stronger event, if you know what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and because also you set up the system so anybody can just look at the website, download the things, look how it's done.
Yeah.
And it's possible for anyone to organize it.
Yeah. So that's it for that section.
Yes.
Next up, Top 40 Jugglers. Actually, you said this will be part 2 of the podcast.
Yeah.
Don't really have that much to say, except because of part 3 of the podcast, which is our upcoming plans, I don't have a lot of time to work on this in the same way that I have the last few years.
Yes.
Because this year, I've got this week off coming, so I'm going to do the voting this week.
Yeah.
6th, not the 6th. I don't know what time it is.
12.
The 11th.
11th.
The 11th to the 17th. So next week, Monday to Sunday, will be the voting will be open. I'll make a video on Monday, or we'll make a video tomorrow. I don't know. I'll record a video, upload it, publish it on Monday. Voting will last for 1 week until the 17th, and then on the 20th. We are leaving for 2 weeks. I've got a gig, a cruise ship gig over Christmas and New Year's, and Juliane is coming with me, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, I hope so.
I heard back from my agent about flights. Still don't have flights.
Oh no!
They said, "Look, we're chasing this up, but haven't got it yet." And I looked at the flights and stuff. It's fine. Like the most it's going to cost to fly you out to Barcelona is going to be like €500. We can get you there and back for €500.
Okay.
So it's not a problem. We'll do it. I can do it cheaper by different flights and stuff. And if I can book you on my flights with air miles, that'll only be €100 each way, rather than €250 each way. Don't worry about it. This is my Christmas present to you. Is you coming with me on a work trip?
Thank you so much.
So I've got that, and then I get back on the 2nd of January, and then on the 3rd of January, I'm flying to Canada to Quebec City for TurboFest, where I'm one of the 2 international guests that they've got.
Yeah.
And I'm doing some workshops, performing in the show.
Awesome.
And taking part. I'm not sure if they want me to organize or just take part in the fight night, but they said that's one of the main things I'm there to do. Yeah, is to be a fight night competitor. So same kind of thing as normal. And I'm going to make a video. I'm going to do a convention vlog as well. Yeah. But the main focus there is I'm performing my magnet machine juggling. And if you're a Patreon supporter, you can go and actually see a video of the first time I performed the latest version of that. From, I don't know, March, April last year, when I did it at the Catapult. I've now performed it there. I performed it at the British Juggling Convention twice, the Berlin Juggling Convention, Catapult. So that's like 4 performances of it so far. Yeah. And anywhere else, I can't remember. So this is my next performance. And this is, again, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because this magnet machine, the reason, one of the main things I was doing with this is having a new, fun, interesting juggling routine that I can perform for jugglers at juggling conventions. Yeah. Of course, a lot of my juggling, I just perform, for anyone. It works really great for anyone. But this is something that I wanted to be a special treat. Yeah. That it's not like, oh, Luke's just doing his club juggling again, or Luke's just doing his 3-ball and video routine again. It's like, no, it's something extra special. Yes. That isn't available online, and I don't perform all the time, but it's something special specifically for other jugglers. Yeah, awesome. So that's working out really well. So I'm really excited to go. I've never performed in Canada before. I've visited Canada a few times. Yeah. But I've never actually properly been there on a trip. There've been 4 proper days. Yeah, what is it? Yeah. I went across the border and went to the Niagara Falls. Yeah, or I visited Halifax on a cruise once or twice. So I've been to Newfoundland, St. John's and Newfoundland. But this is actually a proper visit to spend some time in Canada. Yeah, and it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold. So that means then you have the voting in for the top 40s. Yes. Oh, yes. So, and then what I'm going to do is, hopefully, as that's going along, like I normally do, is I spend quite a while downloading lots of videos of people, even before I know if they're in the top 40 or not, or where their position is going to be. I kind of have a good vibe of what it is. And then I start on some kind of creative process or whatever it is, or maybe just more of a, here are the results kind of process. Sometimes it's more creative, sometimes it's not. So I'm not quite sure what I want to do this year. Yeah. But I probably won't, because of this work trip and this, convention, I probably won't have time to post different things to the internet every day for 2 weeks or whatever it normally is. Also, or 4 times a day for 10 days. You just don't know how your internet access will be. Yeah, I don't know what I'll be at sea many days. Look, so I've got 2 days at sea, and then going to Morocco and different places in Spain. So again, I just don't know exactly how this is all going to work out with internet access and creative energy and stuff. But there'll definitely be something there. Yeah. But it might not be post one thing every day. It might be like, oh, it's just the results video. Yeah. It's just one video and you watch the video, enjoy it, from beginning to end and see what happens.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Like, it's been different formats.
Yeah.
For now more than 20 years.
21 top 40 jugglers in a year. In a row.
Yes.
A yearly project that I've kept up for now 20 years.
Yeah.
2003 was the first time. So it's not just the 21st. It's actually literally 20 years of this being part of my life.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of work. So hopefully people understand that it's not that I won't put in the same amount of effort or time. It's just sort of like logistically, I might be a bit more restricted this time out.
Yeah. But sometimes restrictions lead to amazing outcomes.
Yeah.
Let's see.
There could be more creativity in this one. But
yeah.
Hopefully a fun video that everybody likes on YouTube and Instagram and other places maybe. That'll be a minimum. And then on top of that, hopefully people just enjoy taking part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So get your top 10 names ready.
Yes, that's it. People know the drill. I think that's it. I think we've done a good not end of year wrap up. We will do our next podcast at some point after the top 40 jugglers results comes out.
Yes.
So let's say our December podcast will probably happen 13th of January. Again,
in the month.
Lots of traveling, lots of performing. And again, thank you so much to all our Patreon supporters for making all of this possible. Because again, these projects like the top 40 jugglers, the the magnet machine, the show that I worked on this year, all of these different kind of things. Like I feel like all of these are for not just you, but for the juggling community. Even if it's sort of like Luke going to a juggling convention, but the reason I have stuff to do this is, again, because I'm not just using all of my energy, which would be spent on my work, my work energy. I also have this inspiration and support to work on these projects, which aren't 100%. Luke needs a good show and Luke needs to work as a professional.
And I think this year, 2023, really kind of lots of things came together and accumulated up in successful
I even
outcomes.
had enough money to buy myself a new laptop, which is fantastic.
That is really great. So that's going to be coming really handy for this upcoming top 40 thing.
Yep, very much so.
Yeah.
Being able to edit so smoothly and just having a computer with a large enough hard drive that I don't have to continuously, when I go on a trip, to go, I've got to take a different hard drive in case I need to move this editing project. Just being like, I've got like a terabyte in here,
Yeah, it's great.
So don't have to worry about it.
Awesome.
Well, that's it. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye.